Hello. How's everybody doing? How's everybody out there doing? We're going to be talking about communities and how we can invest in it. And we've got a great panel here with lots of different experience in this. And what I'm going to do is actually just jump right into the questions and have each person, when I come to you, just give a quick brief intro of who you are and why you're here today. So our actual impact on the communities. How much do we need to think about it, and how do we actually reduce impact on our local communities?
I come from Aruba,
Yes.
a very vulnerable place in the Caribbean, very subject to climate change. It's a major danger for us. I'm on one of the top beaches in the world, and if we continue to do what we do, pretty soon we'll be snorkeling our beach instead of walking it. And so it is imperative that we educate our staff, including our customers, on how to ameliorate or how to forego or overcome global climate change and global warming. As an investor, of course, it is extremely important that investors in new properties and even old properties that they retrofit, and new investors build according to the latest guidelines, like LEED. Somebody mentioned it this morning that in California they started that. LEED is a building concept that guarantees you basically that your investment is secured and there's a return on investment. Your staff members have to be educated because they do not realize the dangers of global warming. And in the end, we are all going to suffer. So that is basically what my message is.
Carlos, one of the things we talked about this morning was Puerto Rico's path from natural disaster back to getting people to the island. Can you talk a little bit about how you make sure that there's investment back in communities as people come and spend dollars here and come and visit?
Well, we have seen in the, I would say before the hurricanes, we got Zika, then the hurricanes, then we have earthquake at the southern part of the island, and obviously the pandemic. And situation after situation, we have seen that the recovery have been, I would say, initiated from the communities. In our case, the communities represent municipalities, and they have been the one that have worked, I would say, hand to hand with all those SMEs that obviously cover our ecosystem, apart from the hotels and airlines that obviously are more of government-driven help or aid. These communities, especially after the hurricanes, they were on their own. So they have obviously developed that kind of, I would not say organization, but care for each other, that they know that when they face tough times, like the one that we've been enduring for the past 5 years, they come with each other. So that is very special for us. It's something that we like to foster. It's something that we like to promote. And we were there after the pandemic with all the municipalities. Obviously, the Puerto Ricans had a very limited options of going anywhere. And we were here in Puerto Rico, and we decided that it was the best time to promote what each one of the communities and municipalities has to offer. And that was a very strategic and I will say successful idea. It managed to take up or develop the local tourism to a point that have never been there, and it has stayed the same. So we got Puerto Ricans every weekend getting to explore the island once again, and that has been a very successful strategy from our part.
Good. One of the things we were talking about a little earlier were the tools that are out there for the industry. And you see this with WTTC across the board. What are some of the ways that as an industry, we can give individual businesses the tools to invest back in a community?
Well, I'm going to be inclusive, like my colleague before,
Yes.
and with my panel being that I'm in Puerto Rico. La herramienta más importante que
The most
podemos
important
tener
tool that we can
para
have
poder involucrar a la
to be
comunidad,
able to involve the
desde
community
luego, es
is,
la
of course,
educación, por un
education
lado,
on the one
las
hand,
relaciones y la colaboración público-privada,
collaboration
involucrando
between public and private
obviamente, a
sector,
los ciudadanos,
involving citizens, of
porque
course,
si no ponemos
because
a los ciudadanos en el
if
centro
we
del debate,
can't
no
put
los ponemos a
citizens
ellos
in the
como,
middle of the debate,
fuente principal,
we are not
va a ser
going to
muy
be able
complicado
to
sosteniblemente
easily
avanzar
have
en este
something
camino.
sustainable.
Los ciudadanos
In
tienen que
order
ser
to
parte de todo
advance,
lo que pasa.
citizens have to
Y
be
hay que
part
crear
of
una
everything that
narrativa,
happens.
un
We have to create
relato,
narratives.
porque
We
ellos
have to
no
create
tienen,
stories,
a lo mejor, que saber los
because not
beneficios que
necessarily
como
they know
sector
about all the benefits to
nosotros les
the
estamos ofreciendo a
segment
ellos para
that
poder,
what we're
tener
offering
una
them
educación,
in order
para
to
poder
get
tener una vida
education, to
digna,
have
para poder crecer. Entonces,
dignity in
muy
their life, to
importante
grow.
trabajar
It's very
alineados y
important
poder
that
tener
we
un
line
relato
up,
que convenza al
and we need
ciudadano
a story
de qué
that
beneficios tiene
convinces
para
a
ellos
citizen
un sector
that
como el
this
nuestro, que es un
sector is
que
important
atrae
in their
beneficios
lives.
sociales, que
It has
atrae,
social benefits,
inversiones,
it has investment,
infraestructuras, y que es,
infrastructure,
era el 10,3%
and
del PIB global,
it
pero que
was
para
the
el
3%
2023
of the
volveremos a donde lo dejamos.
GBD, and we want to go back to what we were.
Whose responsibility is it for that education? Is it the local government? Is it the industry itself? Who should be having those communications with the citizens?
Bueno, es una relación, o sea, tiene que haber una comunicación.
It's
tiene
a
que haber un
communication.
acuerdo,
There
un
has to
consenso.
be an
Lo que desde luego
agreement
hemos
between the
aprendido
parts,
durante la
because
pandemia es
what
que
we learned during the
trabajar
pandemic
solos es absolutamente
is that you
imposible, no
cannot
consigues
work
nada,
alone.
tenemos
You
que trabajar
don't
alineados.
go anywhere
De hecho,
if
hemos
you
tratado de
are
recuperarnos
working alone. You
tanto
need to
porque no
collaborate.
hemos conseguido tener un
We
consenso, esta
have not been
armonización, y
able
nosotros,
to
por eso
get
al
over this
principio de la
pandemic as
pandemia
much as we
hicimos
should have
todos
had,
ellos
because we haven't
en
been
común,
working
en conjunto,
lined up. So we
trabajamos,
have to
intentamos
line up.
alinear.
We have to
Todavía-
reach
todavía
agreements.
estamos
We
teniendo
are still
dificultades,
having
pero es
difficulties,
posible. Una vez que
but it
estamos
is
alineados,
possible.
podemos
Once
hacer
we're
las cosas
lined up,
mejor y más rápido.
we can do
En el
things
caso de la-
faster,
de
we
la
can do
educación,
things
de
better.
convencer
In terms
que
of
es necesaria
education
una
and
educación, es
convincing
igual.
people,
Seguramente tiene que haber una apuesta por
there
parte de
has
las,
to be a
instituciones,
proposal
una
from
gobernanza
institutions.
que
There has to be
permita
governance
facilitar que
that
las
allows
empresas
this to be
tengan estas
easier for the
herramientas
companies
para poder
to provide
entrenar no
these
solamente a
tools
los
to
empleados, a los
educate
empleadores,
employees,
pero
to
también a la comunidad.
educate employers,
Y eso
but
es
also
muy
the
importante.
community, and that's
Nada es
very
por sí
important.
solo. Ya hemos pasado,
Nobody can work
el
alone.
momento en
That
el que
is gone.
decidían
That
unos,
is
decidían
past.
otros. Ahora quien
We
decide
can't
realmente es el consumidor,
work
pero desde luego, si
independently,
no
the
consideramos
consumer
al
decides,
ciudadano,
but if we
estamos muy
don't
confundidos.
talk to the citizens, we're confused. We're not going anywhere.
Liz, one of the things we talked about before we started was actually hiring from the local community to do programming, to do tours. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing and why is it so important?
I'm sorry, I will speak also in Spanish because it's my language and I need to speak with emotion. And the emotion is in my language. Aquí nadie puede dudar.
No one can doubt that tourism is the biggest contributor to sustainability and growth. We work in circuits, cultural circuits. We talk about experiences, we talk about community, we talk about shared benefits from tourism. There are many, many simple ways to involve the community. People think, when they talk about experiences, of things that are very exclusive or expensive, luxury tourism, but no, it's not about that. Involving the community is looking for those opportunities to bring them in. Let me talk about examples. Any traveler in Europe, to be in a sand dune in a desert is an experience. For somebody that doesn't have a forest nearby, that would be an experience, and that happens anywhere that you visit. Let me give you some examples of things that we do. For example, in Mexico, there are magnificent places that are very commercialized. But how do we benefit the community? We need to find smaller places, and we include a very beautiful underground lake, and that might be near a specific community. So they are going to explain to us, the community is going to explain to us about this ecosystem. This is a unique experience. And of course, they talk to us in Mayan because that's their language. They give us their food, which is different to anything. So we have different circuits to get to where the plane doesn't reach. So we are making that income available to different communities. We're opening new routes in Saudi Arabia. We need to do things that are different. When you go to a city, what are you going to do? Is there anything artistic? Let's look for those experiences. Let's talk to people. Let's ask them. I'm going to bring here the people. Tell me, you tell me how your market works. Let's look for a long route, and the local population, for example, will tell us about the oasis if we're in a desert. So we often talk about massification, and we see images of thousands of tourists in temples in Japan. But we can go to a smaller place where a monk can explain the religion. There is no tourism, there's silence. That's what we do when we involve people. With the Foundation Europa Mundo, we have supported programs for transformation. In desert communities, we have helped communities where we can see women producing artisanry. We would visit adobe towns. We are bringing money into the community. We have united our foundation with our tourists. We need to create content. We are the ones called for that. And tourism offers thousands of opportunities, not just for big businesses, but small communities and just people with individuality.
You were not joking about the passion. I love that. And honestly, I think that's what we all need right now. How do we bottle that passion and give it to tourists so they go ahead and book it? No, but you spoke about the over-tourism problem, that you show up at a site and there are thousands and thousands of people there and you feel like you're crammed in, and how you avoid that by going to that single temple with that monk and getting that small, intimate experience. How do you avoid that small experience becoming over-touristed?
We need a realistic, necesitamos ser realistas.
We need to be realists. We need to understand that people buy what they know. You can't stop going to this place or that place. You have to go to Chichen Itza, but you also have to go to that small space, and you have to create a balance. You have to mix one thing with the other. So you need mass, but you need, let's say, 4 or 5 points where there's no tourists whatsoever, and the travelers feel that they are having the authentic experience. It's just a regular town, but for that person that comes from the other side of the world, it's fantastic. So you can combine both things, and you just put other places in the midst of that route, because then you will find new opportunities and people will create new businesses and you'll have new routes. So we need to work as travelers, but we are business people and we have to open paths for tourism in those places where we also benefit the local communities.
Carlos, I'm going to bring it back to you, and speaking of the same issue, I remember when I was a kid and first visited El Yunque, and it was a great experience, but it got crowded. I came back during the pandemic, and there were timed entries. You had to, in advance, get a reservation to come into the rainforest, enter at that time, and it was a completely changed experience, but it was accessible to so many fewer people. How do you balance that out so that people can enjoy the beauty of the island, but not fight each other over it?
Now, that's obviously that's a very great example because I would say even the experience changed. And then you have to decide if you're going to go back or you're going to keep a balance or what you're going to do. And that gives us the opportunity to maybe promote and develop other attractions that maybe were not so popular, but they deserve the same, I would say, TLC. And when people get to know them, they're going to like it same way that they like the Yunque or Morro. And the thing is that in Puerto Rico, 95% of the enterprises that are in tourism are small business, and they are scattered all over the island. So we have to cater them, and we have to promote them, and we have to help them from the coast to the mountains, and that helps us because the new profile of our visitors, they tend to stay maybe 1 night or 2 nights here in San Juan, and then they rent a car and go and explore the island. That's very, very important for us because the recovery, it doesn't kept in clusters. It's decentralized, and the way that you can impact more SMEs around the island, obviously, is the way that we can recover more rapidly. And we're seeing it in the regional airports. We're seeing it on events that Puerto Ricans and visitors alike want to explore more, want to have that direct connection with nature, want to have experience that obviously get them in touch with nature, open fields. So that kind of experience are mostly managed in Puerto Rico by small business, and that's how we have been able to develop or increase our inventory aside from El Morro, Yunque, and the beaches to a completely, I would say, full-service island where you can go to the beach and in the next couple of hours you can go to the rainforest, and then you can go to the dry desert, and you can have all this experience in just a limited time of space of time. So for us, it has been a blessing that we have had this amazing recovery, and that it has not been just in a few places or the capital, it has been all across the island, and people get it. We're now receiving a lot of intention of business that they want to do small business towards sustainable tourism, agro-tourism. So in that way, we have been very blessed. The pandemic obviously has been a great setback in terms of other sectors here in Puerto Rico. But for tourism, it has been the same that after the hurricane. It has a very resilient economy, and right now, obviously, we're working on develop those new ventures that we've seen that are popping up all over the island that cater to that group that obviously want to have that experience with nature.
Tell us a little bit about your resort, and one of the things that we've talked about in this industry for a long time is the upward mobility that it has for people. How do you in particularly get that message across for women and younger employees out there that like, this is an industry you can get into and here's how we can help not just you, but your community?
Number one is, of course, education. Most people think that the hospitality industry is a slave-driving industry, and I think we take a different approach to it. Hospitality is the funnest, the most enjoyable job that you can possibly imagine. Basically, we all serve somebody, whether you're a doctor or a dentist or a nurse or a policeman or fireman for that matter, we all serve somebody. I can think of the hospitality as the most enjoyable ambience to be working in. And so we try to project that to our employees. Of course, pay is, of course, also very important. And the hospitality probably offers better opportunities in income than any other industry. So a lot of it is also how you approach your customers. We became carbon neutral and in 2018, and we then proved to our customers that staying at home, for instance, is more emissions than coming to stay with us for a week.
So I'm just going to move in. I'm just going to move in for a week then, right?
Yes, right. So you can stay carbon neutral with me. You can buy offsets from the airlines, and you travel guilt-free. And one thing we have proven that sustainability and luxury is not exclusive. It works very well together. And our employees have enjoyed that and have lived that, and they are proud. And of course, the awards that we have received over the years for service and for sustainability have increased the pride, and they're very, very, very proud to work for us. And so that helps attract a stable labor force.
You mentioned at the beginning that you sit on one of the most beautiful beaches out there. I think some folks might disagree with you on that, on what's the most beautiful beach, but we can all agree there are lots of great beaches out there. What do you find the intention of the guests are? Do they just want to be on the beach and forget their life at home, or do they want to get out and understand more about the community that they're in?
Our approach is that our customers, we don't have an all-inclusive program.
Yeah.
We are a hotel, a resort, and we offer breakfast and, of course, lunch and dinner if they want to. We do offer a dine-around program so that they can actively go out and engage in the community. Aruba is, of course, a very safe island, and it's a very small island, so you easily get around. But you can go out at any time, day or night, and you can mingle with the locals. And we don't want to lock down our customers into four walls and make them stay with us. We encourage them to buy a dine-around if they want to have a budget. We made deals with several restaurants out there that they can have dinner with coupons, with vouchers. And so we encourage our customers to go out and meet the population. They also meet our internal customers, our employees. They go out a lot of our customers are repeat customers, and they invite our staff out for dinner. And they visit them at home, and in return, our employees go and visit them at their homes in Sweden and in New York and in other parts of the world. So it all works very well.
Good. We're running out of time. I want to kind of go again with a quick lightning round through the panel on what do you see the biggest challenge in the next few years in getting the industry to think locally and think about the communities, and how can we overcome that? Maribel, why don't we start with you?
Yo creo que en este momento toda aquella
Well, I think that
empresa o todo aquel
every
destino que
business
no
or
considere
every destination that
la
does not
comunidad
consider the
no va a
community
ser competitivo.
will not be
Pero yo,
competitive.
queridos viajeros,
We
queremos ir
need,
a Colombia
when we're
y queremos
travelers,
ver,
we want to go to Colombia
queremos oír salsa,
and we want to
queremos ir a un
see
pueblo
something
donde nos
typical from
cuenten,
Colombia. We want to
sus
go to
tradiciones,
a
queremos
place where we can
sentirnos
see
que
their
estamos,
traditions.
involucrados con la
We want to
comunidad.
feel that
El
we're
viajero quiere
involved with the
experiencias, quiere
community.
sentir,
Travelers
ir
want
a venir a Puerto
experiences.
Rico y
They
ver el
want to
baile.
come here
Con
to
lo cual,
Puerto
todos
Rico
aquellos que
and
no
have an
estén
authentic
haciendo esto
experience,
no van a ser
something that
competitivos.
is
Pero el
unique.
mayor,
If they don't do it,
el mayor
they're
reto
not
que yo
going
veo
to be
es que si no
competitive.
hay
I
una
think that the biggest
colaboración,
challenge
por
is that
ejemplo,
we
en el
need
caso del Caribe, hemos
collaboration.
estado hablando estos días,
We
hoy,
have
el
been
día de hoy,
talking
sería muy
today
interesante que tuviera un
about
acuerdo, ¿no?
something
toda la
that
zona
we could have an
para
agreement for the
tener un
whole Caribbean
multidestino,
region
porque si
so
no
that
van
it
a
will be a
tú hoy día no vas a competir
multi-destination
con tu
trip.
isla de al
You
lado.
don't want to
Tú hoy
compete
día
with your
compites
neighboring
con
island.
cualquier otra
You
isla de
want
cualquier
to
otra parte
compete
del
with
mundo.
another
Con lo cual, lo
region
importante
in
y
the
el reto
world.
ahora es que
And
haya
now
esta
the challenge
colaboración
is to
entre
get that
islas, entre
collaboration
los
going
destinos, para hacer
between
posible que un viajero
destination,
que viene del otro lado
between
del océano
islands, so that
pueda
we can
decir, pues
attract
me voy
people
a
from the
Puerto
other side of the
Rico, voy a
world
Ecuador,
and
voy
say,
a
no, I'm not
México
only
en
going
un
to go to
mismo
Puerto
viaje.
Rico,
Ese
I'm
es
going
un
to go to
reto muy
Puerto Rico, I'm going to go to
interesante que
Dominican
tenemos que tener en
Republic, I'm
cuenta.
going to go to Mexico.
I love that idea, and sign me up. I will go island hopping any
too.
day.
I'm
Carlos, we
suggesting
have a
because I'm
question from the
interested.
audience for you about what incentives do you have for residents to help promote domestic tourism?
Well, we have a few, various of them, mainly on hotel development, but we help them and we aid them in a more, I would say, entrepreneurship way. This is, going back to the last question, I would say that The hardest challenge that I see from a perspective of government is how you manage to give a global view of things, but at the same time going back to the communities and apply all the things. I can go to 10 events like this, and I will say I learn a lot, but if I don't go with that information and go directly to the communities and apply everything I learn, it's a waste of knowledge. Coming back to the incentives, obviously we like to support them. There are various agencies that manage in terms of capital seed, and we give them capital money to start their businesses. But I would say the Puerto Rico Tourism Company is well known for being a support liaison between them and the other agencies. Obviously, we have other things that they need help, and we have to work as a facilitator for them and give them the help to being able to have those relationships with the other government agencies that they need the help.
Fantastic. Well, we have a question for you. You've got solar panels in several buildings. What are your long-term plans around solar energy, and how are you involving the local community? I hate to do this, you got 65 seconds to answer.
I'll try. We do already purchase 20% solar energy, and we produce our own 20% solar energy with the panels we have in the hotel. We are limited to installing more because the electric company does not allow more than 20% production because they don't want to lose their customers. They need to maintain their services. But we are also purchasing 20% wind energy. And we are actively pursuing to invest in wind turbines, a company that is considering adding some wind turbines to the wind farm.
So you'd actually add more solar if the energy company would let you.
Yes. Well, I have one office building that I will actually pull the plug from the electric company and go solar 100% because it's office hours, it's daytime, and the sun in Aruba works fine. So that building will be self-sufficient, but I cannot unplug the hotel, and therefore I'm looking for alternative sources where I can either purchase or invest the additional energy that I would like, because we are still buying some offsets from the local wind farm. We would actually want to be carbon zero in the future. So we're working actively to accomplish that.
I think that's a perfect vision for us to end on today. Hopefully that we can all go carbon zero at some point. So I want to thank our panel for this great discussion, and like everything, I wish we had more time. So thank you.
Thank you.